Hey guys, it's Christine. Welcome to another video on my channel. Sorry, I thought I heard my door opening and I've got kids up here, so it's not. I'm just distracted. I am homeschooling mom, hence why my kids are around while I'm filming, and that's what I share here. So today is a little bit of a different video because I'm going to be sharing some tips on moving with kids, and also it will relate to homeschooling because I'm going to touch on that as well. So if you're in that season or planning on being in that season soon, then you might want to keep watching. Okay, if you're new here and you need a little context, we just moved house about 3 weeks ago, actually 3 weeks ago exactly today that I'm filming. And it was the total process of finding the house we wanted to moving into it was about 3 months. And that's a long time and there's a lot of disruptions in there. And so I just thought I would share some tips about the selling process and the moving process, because there's kind of both things. So selling was really hard work. I thought it was going to be the easy part for us, but it was actually really hard work. It was very hard keeping the house clean. And I'm someone who keeps a pretty clean house most of the time, but it was hard work. So I would say my number one tip for that is declutter as much as you can, pack away as much as you possibly can in the meantime, and then just have a routine for getting things cleaned up really quickly. Have a space where you can dump stuff, if it's the back of your car or whatever, just to get clutter out the way. And I would also say to try not to sweat the small stuff. I got really caught up in the tiny little details that really didn't matter at the end of the day, like a little paint chip here or a scuff mark on a baseboard, and I would stress about not getting it off before we had an open home. It's good to try and get as much done as you can, but in general, people don't actually notice as much as you think they do. And when we moved into our house now, I'm like, oh my goodness, they did not do, the toilet seat was broken. It was a crack in it. And there's scuffs on the wall and paint chips and wallpaper. And I just didn't care because I just loved the home and I wanted it. So it is good to declutter and to touch up paint where it needs it, but try not to sweat the small stuff so much because it really doesn't matter in the great scheme of things. And then try and have a place that you can go to during house viewings, because that was hard with 3 kids and a dog. I'd have to take the dog with me, and I'd make sure all the dog stuff was picked up and put away. So we had family we could go to, or I'd go to a park. And also the other thing that was hard was I thought I would just be no, don't come between this time and this time because we're schooling. But we were just so desperate to sell. I was whenever they need to come, they can come. And so I had school that we could pick up and put in the car. And so we did car schooling a couple of times, and that worked really well for us. So don't be afraid to do that with your kids. It can work. Yeah, it worked well for us to do that. But give yourself grace. It is hard. I would say that if you kind of have an idea of how long the house selling process is going to take, consider streamlining your school, your homeschooling, and just doing the bare minimum. Because there will be time to catch up later. And so we definitely got to a point where we were just doing the bare minimum. And that worked really well because I just didn't have the capacity to do everything. We were tired and there was just so many disruptions on so many days. And you need to go into it with that mindset that there are going to be a lot of disruptions, and it's okay. It's a season and there's an end goal, and it'll be worth it all in the end. Because I can guarantee you there were many times where I was like, is this even going to be worth it? And I'm here to testify that it was 110% worth it. So selling the house, there was that. When it came to actually moving, we talked about the house a lot. We talked about how our home is where we are together as a family, and that we will miss our old home because of the memories we made there, but that we're going to make lots of new exciting memories at our new house. And I will say that my kids were pretty unsettled leading up to the move, mainly my youngest child. moving into this house, she's always shared a bedroom from the time she was, well, not when she was a tiny, tiny baby, but basically since she can remember, she's been sharing a bedroom. And so she's got her own room in this house, and I knew it was going to be a big adjustment for her, and I was really nervous, and she was like, no, I don't want to. And so I just said to her, you can share a room with your siblings until you are ready to go into your new room. Like, I did not put any pressure on her, but she was very unsettled. And, like, obviously the house is different. Like, our routine was different. Boxes were being packed. Their furniture was being dismantled. Some of it was sold. We got some new stuff, things like that. And so it can be pretty unsettling for kids. So I just say, try and have as much consistency and routine as you can possibly get into the day. I know that's hard when there are lots of disruptions, but try. And lots of cuddles and talks with your kids really does make a difference. When it came to packing the house, I just packed a few boxes every day, and I feel like that worked really well. And I sort of started with things that were packed away in cupboards that we didn't use all the time, like off-season linen and extra towels and things like that. I did use a lot of linen and towels for padding in boxes, like between picture frames and stuff like that, instead of having to use paper or bubble wrap. We got a lot of boxes secondhand. I would not buy boxes unless you absolutely had to. Most stores you can go to, like I know our grocery stores, certainly you can go to and get secondhand boxes, no problem. And we thankfully were able to get them through my husband's work because he works in retail, so there were lots of boxes there. And then I just bought some packing paper, and I actually used about like half of the roll that I bought. But I did that, and then what I did, which was really helpful, is I had a running inventory. So I had a piece of paper, and I would, when I like packed the box, I would write a number on the box, and then I would write a general overview of what was in there, but not like an in-depth. And then on my piece of paper, I'd write the number, and I'd write the room that it was going into, and then I would have like a very detailed account of what was in there, so that when it came time to unpacking, I wasn't like looking everywhere for the things. And that worked very well, because like the movers could look at what the box said and put it in each room. Although that did not happen on the day, but that was outside of our control. So that was how packing went. The one thing, it was interesting because I had a couple people say, make sure your kids are there on moving day because it's like really important for closure for them. My kids actually went to a friend on moving day, and I'm so grateful that they did, because it was a really, really long day, and it would have been very stressful had they been with us. And so it was a blessing that they weren't. But they did say goodbye to the house. Like in the morning before I went and dropped them off, like they went and had a look around and said goodbye. And I took a picture of them on the front step for the last time. And then I took them to a friend's house, and they had a really fun day there. And I'm just so grateful they were out of the way, because it was stressful moving furniture, especially because we were in a small house. There wasn't really anywhere where they could have gone that was separate from everything. So if you have got somebody who can help watch your kids on moving day, then I strongly recommend that. The other tip that I had was using paper plates. In the last week, we used paper plates and bowls because it was just meant that I could keep out just the very, very minimum from the kitchen and pack away the rest. So that was really great, and it cut down on like the dishwasher and things like that. And I actually continued that when we moved into our new house, because I couldn't find all the things straight away, and so or I couldn't get to them anyway. And so we just had paper plates and bowls, and that worked super well for us. And then I packed, so here's another tip. Make sure you pack all the linens ready to go for the beds. Like as soon as you get to your new house, that's the first thing you want to do is set up the beds. We didn't have time to actually make the bed frames because we got in so late, but we were able, my mum actually did this for me, which was such a blessing. She went around and made up the mattresses so all the kids had somewhere to sleep, because they actually got back fairly late, and we had a bed to fall into exhausted at the end of the day, because you will be exhausted. I also had a box of stuff that I knew we would need in the first little bit. I had packed a suitcase with a set of pajamas, a change of clothes, and toiletries, so that we had that all on the first night. And then I had a box of things like the kettle and the tea and the coffee and like basic things like that that I knew would want right away. And that worked really, really well. I The other tip I would have is for cleaning. I had 2 like cleaning caddies. I had one for the new house and one for the old house, because you don't want to take all your cleaning supplies to your new place and then be stuck not able to clean your old house. So that was something else that was really helpful in the move. I'm trying to think if there are any other tips that I would give. The first week I spent just unpacking boxes. I would say that it is good to just unpack. Like, I just unpacked everything. It's not organized, but it's unpacked. So the boxes are out the house and I can move freely around my home, and then I'll just go back through and I'll organize things as I need to. But it is really nice to just have everything out the boxes and put away. So if you can manage that, if you have the time and the energy, do that. You're probably going to feel absolutely exhausted for a full week after having moved, based on my very recent experience. But you will feel better for having it all unpacked, and then you can just take your time with going through and organizing things, because I know I am. I certainly haven't organized everything. I actually hope to get to my pantry today. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. So those are my tips for moving. My kids actually settled super well. My youngest went into her own room the second night. I was like flabbergasted, and she's been in there ever since and absolutely loves it. So that was a huge blessing. And now that we're here and the stuff is out, like I set up my kids' rooms pretty much straight away. Like day 2, I was in their rooms getting things set up, and that really helped them, I think, to feel settled. They had their toys, they had their things that were familiar with them, to them, and I really do think that helped. So those are my tips for moving. If you have any more that I haven't thought of, I'm sure there's others I could add. Leave them in the comments down below, because I know a lot of you are in this season at the moment. I've gotten lots of messages from you guys. But I hope these are helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
What if the world had more of your smile? What if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach everyone? There'd be no war.